Okay, this is Ree here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. All praises to Kali Ma. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. Don't forget to check out my website, paradxastrology.com. I can help you with anything. And if you would like more exclusive occult videos that I don't post on YouTube, consider subscribing to my Patreon. It also helps support this channel. Okay, let's get into this video. As promised, I said I would talk about more countries on the other side of the world. So today we're going to talk about England because I noticed that on November 4th in Trafalgar, I hope I'm saying that right, Square, you guys can correct me if I say it wrong, there were 6 people that were charged with following a pro-Palestinian march in central London on Saturday. And November 4th is actually when Saturn turned direct. So of course that piqued my interest and I got the chart for England. And so we're going to use that in order to decode what's happening in London and actually what may also happen, not just in London, but in England, and what I foresee for the future with these transits. The news said that there was a total of 29 people arrested by the Met Police in suspicion of public order offenses, radically motivated crimes, and assaulting a police officer. The force said that fireworks were thrown at officers, and they said the crimes were fueled by hate. Now, I don't trust news stories to tell us exactly what happened, but I did see some videos online. We can't really trust these videos online either, but this is a report of what happened. And the reason I said that is because fireworks, hate, are all Mars. So Saturn actually went direct in Dhanisha Nakshatra in Aquarius. England actually has its Mars in Dhanisha Nakshatra in Capricorn, which is exalted. So it's a good example of how planets not being in the same sign but in the same nakshatra can still affect the chart. I know this personally because I do have Rahu moon in Kritika, but my Rahu is in Aries and my moon is in Taurus. So it does have a different type of energy. It's not quite a conjunction because it's not conjunct by sign, but being conjunct by nakshatra, you do still feel the effects, especially when you predict. And that's just what I've noticed. Saturn went direct at 6 degrees in Dhanisha, November 4th. And like I said, the Mars is actually located at 27 degrees. And then whenever we have a conjunction of Saturn and Mars, something always happens and it's never like a very good sign. So this is actually in the 11th house from the moon. Now we don't have the exact time. This is a very long time ago in year 1066 that England was formed. So we don't have the exact time. So that's why we're using the moon. No matter what time the moon is in Pisces. So the 11th house is the people, it's the organizations. It's organizations in large groups, just like protests. And like I said, we have Mars exalted there. And I've always noticed that when Saturn goes into an exalted Mars, yes, there's problems. Mars is also war, and this was a protest for the war. We also have Venus, which is the 3rd house lord, which rules communication. It's next to Mars in the chart. So in the chart, we have Mars, Venus, and Mercury together. So it's activating all of these planets. Venus, the lord of communication, next to Mars, this is very aggressive communication, what some people may call hate, or just being aggressive and passionate about what you're talking about, which is very evident in a protest. Also, it is the lord of the 8th house, which has to do with transformation and change. And the 8th house is Libra, which is the relationships. And within this, they wanted the relationships to transform, to change, the ones that have to do with war. They don't want the war anymore. So they wanted the relations of war to stop. We also have Mercury, which is also communication. It is the lord of the 4th house, which is the homeland. It's also the opposition to the government. So what they were opposing is what the government is doing. It's also the lord of the 7th house, which is international affairs. It is open warfare. It is battles, public gathering, and foreign policies. Mars and Mercury being in the same house, this causes aggressive speech and communication as well. So what I noticed in the chart right now, we have Rahu, which is second from the moon. And Rahu is going to be entering Pisces when we use the true node, which is what I use. But if you use the mean node, it's already there. So Rahu will be entering Pisces on November 28th, and that's where it has its K2. So this is actually going to be a nodal reversal for England, which is going to be very karmic. England will have to revisit some past issues. Rahu will also be conjunct the moon, and the moon is the public. It's the people, it's the masses, and they will be acting in unconventional ways. Now, once it goes in November 28th, it'll be there for 18 months. So this is what's going to happen for the next 18 months. Restlessness will increase. Obsessive behaviors will increase. Crime can increase. Health issues, especially with natal Jupiter being in the 6th house, because the lord of Pisces is Jupiter. So we look where Jupiter is in the 6th house of health, but it's also the house of war. People will have trouble being at rest. There could be revolts, riots. There could also be war and violence, political plots, strikes, new technology, and inflammable gases. This will make sense in a little bit when I talk about that. K2 will also enter its 7th house from the moon, and that's where Saturn is. And this can create some karmic losses, especially because it's the lord of the 12th house from the moon. It's also the lord of the 11th house, where the conjunction of Mars, Venus, and Mercury is, that was activated by Saturn. So it will be activated again, but for the 18 months. And so we can see a lot of protests. Also, being the 11th house and the 12th house lord, we could see deaths, hospitalizations. I also looked back on when Saturn conjunct Mars in Dhanishta in Capricorn. So the exact conjunction by sign and by nakshatra. It was conjunct on March 14th, 2022. There was a demonstration at a mansion linked to Vladimir Putin's ally, Oleg Deripaska, I hope I said that right. It ended in 8 arrests. Protesters occupied the balcony of 5 Belgrave Square in central London about midnight and stayed for most of the day despite police efforts to remove them. The squatters said they were reclaiming the property for Ukrainian refugees. So it's very interesting that whenever Saturn hits here, like we said, it makes sense that there is a protest to do with war because of Mars and all the other aspects within it, the 11th house and everything I mentioned. Also on March 23rd, I wanted to see if there was any accidents. So on March 23rd, 2022, there was, because Saturn and Mars creates accidents. There was 29 people that were taken to hospital after a high quantity of fluorine gas was released in an accident on that Wednesday at the Aquatic Center at London's Olympic Park. So that's why I also talked about the gases, the potential inflammable gases, because that seems to be something that's happened before. So that is something to watch out for. Saturn will be transiting in Dhanishta, I believe till the end of November. I'll put the exact date below. So these are things that can keep happening, or there could be more events happening to do with these specific themes that I mentioned. So keep a lookout for it. If you like this video, then I'll talk more about England. I'll talk more about London as I study the chart more and bring you more information. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in the next one.